Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode. My name is Leisha Gogan, the host of the Glow Up Secrets podcast, where I help you expand your mind and become more self-aware so that you can glow up into the best version of yourself. Hello, happy Sunday. If you're listening to this on a Sunday, I am feeling very happy, very fresh, very alive. The sun is out, spring is here, and I want to talk about how to live a softer life, how to live more stress-free, living more in your feminine energy, all that good stuff. I feel like spring naturally awakens this interest, at least for me, and honestly, a lot of you guys, on the topic of living more softer and enjoying life more and not trying to control and stress. I think naturally when the weather changes and you're entering a new era, especially moving into spring and summer, you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but you also want to enjoy life. You know, the days are longer. Well, the days are the exact same, but the days are longer because the sun is out. Usually it's getting warmer. You want to see friends. You want to connect more. You want to awaken. But you know, when you're trying to do these things like have a balanced life or see friends or just be happy, sometimes you can struggle with that because you have that part of you that really is so addicted to controlling things and stressing about things and being so rigid with routines. And I basically want this episode to be a bunch of things that I have learned over the years of learning to not operate completely in masculine energy, you could say, or just operating in my controller part, the one that's always stressing and worrying about things, so that I can be happy and let my nervous system rest and to see myself even heal, but also so I could even manifest and do all the things that I really want to accomplish in my life. Now, I think it's a pretty big trend for many of us, especially women, but men can definitely struggle with these things as well. But I'm just speaking from my perspective and my experience as a woman. I think a lot of us know that we have been operating more in that stressful masculine energy, very controlling, very on edge, maybe you're anxious, that type of mode. And we know that there's this other side that everyone's talking about, like living in your feminine energy and like living more of a soft life and, you know, not stressing and things like that. And we're always trying to figure out how to be that person, like how do I stop controlling and things like that. And I think the first most important thing that really can help you take that step forward into living more of a softer life and building that life out and, you know, regulating your nervous system and not being that person all the time is understanding why you're even like this in the first place. And I think that we know what we do, but we don't necessarily know why we do things. And it's not to say that you knowing the why of everything is going to change you and the way you operate, because you need to actually take the action and take practical tips and, you know, do things over and over again. But sometimes it is helpful when you are operating from a place of control to understand where this is coming from. And I'm not going to get too much into it because I have so many podcast episodes in regards to linking how you act right now back into your childhood or attachment styles or things that have happened to you in the past. But just understand that when you are trying to control things, when you're stressing about things, when you're anxious, when you are worried, it's for a reason. Most likely you have lived a life where there was struggle or there was things to stress about, or you didn't have a lot of affirmation or consistency in your life. And so you had to take on that role of trying to figure things out and controlling certain situations so that you're safe. And I actually think the first step of being softer and moving into feminine energy and like loving yourself and all those things is to really send that part of you, the one that is in that state, love and compassion and understanding, because, you know, this part of you, the way you've been operating, it's worked for you in a lot of senses, but also it's just the way you've learned how to operate in life. And you don't need to berate yourself. You don't need to be mad at yourself for that, really. And when we're trying to be more on a pursuit of living a softer life and living in feminine energy and not being so stressed, we're not going to get there by stressing and being mad at ourselves for the fact that we are not like that already. Now, you can get to the root of why you are operating from this place of control and stress through multiple ways. Obviously, you can go to therapy. You can listen to podcasts that really dive deep into inner child work. I talk a lot about that, of course. I even have an inner child discovery journal prompt guide, which will be linked down below, where you can dive a little bit deeper into why you do the things that you do. I even have journal guides when it comes to manifestation and abundance. I think that could even be more helpful than the inner child one when it comes to moving out of scarcity, the scarcity mindset, and just really worrying about, especially like money, but also just manifesting things in your life. But we'll get into everything, but those will be linked down below. But another thing that's been helpful for me is doing parts work. Now, you can get the book No Bad Parts. I can leave it down below as well, by Richard Schwartz, or you can even do parts work with a therapist. You'd have to kind of look for somebody who specializes in internal family systems. Now, I'm going to quickly just explain what parts work is. Parts work, often associated with internal family systems therapy, is a therapeutic approach that recognizes the self as being composed of various parts or sub-personalities, each with its own unique thoughts, feelings, and motivations. And really, you can think about this like you're probably not the same person that you are around your friends and family and lover and at a work situation or school. Like, you probably have like kind of different personalities, also depending on who you're around or who you feel comfortable with, things like that. Now, moving on, these parts are seen as having their own agendas and can sometimes conflict with each other, leading to internal struggles and emotional challenges. Parts work aims to help individuals understand and connect with these different parts, ultimately fostering greater self-awareness, emotional regulation, and healing. And this is really helpful for when you see yourself sabotaging, but also you can see this in a sense of, okay, I'm a control freak, or I stress about things, or I can't let myself rest. It's conflicting because there's a part of you that wants that and knows that's good, but then you keep doing it. It's because you have a part of you that probably was formed pretty young that believes it should control. It has beliefs, it has thoughts, it has emotions that maybe are suppressed, that need to be worked on, that need to be explored when it comes to the certain beliefs that this part of you might hold. And really, it just needs a relationship, which is weird because it's like you talking to another part of you. It seems a little bit out there, but it's been very transformative. So I'm just going to leave that there. I think that there's so many ways in which that you can connect with yourself and understand why you do the things that you do. But I do think that is very important, instead of just being like, oh, I'm just this person and I don't know why, but let me try and change it. Now, the next thing that I really want to stress is that learning to live a softer life or regulate your nervous system and to be less stressed in your life needs to not be another thing that you have to do, okay? Because this is what we will do when we want to change something about ourselves, is we're like, okay, like I need to go on a healing journey. I need to fix this about me. But that is in contradiction to what living in your feminine energy and living a softer life is. So approaching this journey should be a soft, easy journey. It should be you listening, you really taking in some of this information and not feeling like you instantly need to apply this and you have to change your entire life. Like, that is, again, the opposite of what we are trying to do. And actually, I saw this reel on Instagram. I didn't write out everything because it was quite long, but I did write out one thing that I felt really explained, in my opinion, what it means to really live a softer life and live more in your feminine energy. And it basically was saying life is like a wave, and you were never meant to carry that wave and try and control the wave or fix the wave or stop the wave. You were meant to let the wave move through you. And I think that when you move through life like that, that is what it means to be more in that feminine energy, right? Instead of you trying to control and you trying to fix and put structures on things. And that is basically what the masculine is. And now let's quickly talk about feminine and masculine energy. And I have talked about this a lot. I think it's just easy and it's helpful to look at the world not completely like this, but in a lot of senses, more yin yang, masculine, feminine. We all have feminine and masculine energy in us. It doesn't matter about your gender. But in my personal experience, for sure, I definitely naturally want to reside more in the feminine, but my life circumstance has made it so that I've had to do more things in my masculine energy. And so anyways, I just wanted to quickly bring up an infographic from Pinterest and explain a little bit more. So the divine feminine, which is yin, it is open and receptive, intuitive, cyclical, creative. It's about self-care and being. Of course, it's emotional, it's feeling, it's magnetic, seductive, flowing, relationship oriented. And it says desires are connection and intimacy. And then the scarce masculine, which is the yang, which is more penetrative and decisive, intellectual, linear, purposeful, and has leadership, doing, action, consciousness, presence, thinking, dominant, protective, dedicated, driven, structure, task oriented, and the desires are more freedom. And I think when it comes to relationships, like this is going to be separate. I'm not going to talk too much about relationships, but with relationships, like naturally in this generation right now, actually not in this generation, but the way the world typically works is like men typically have more of those traits and women typically have more of the feminine, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a balance of both. You know, we shouldn't rely on somebody who will only have that masculine. And also a lot of people have unhealthy forms of the feminine and even the masculine. And I think people get it confused, especially women. They think if I'm controlling, if I'm stressed, if I'm whatever, then that means I'm in my masculine and it's wrong and it's bad and I should be in my feminine. That's not necessarily the case. We should, in my personal opinion, have both yin and yang within ourselves as energy. But it's really about having that healthy masculine energy within us and that healthy feminine within us as well. Structure is important for all of us, but burning ourselves out is not helpful. And that's where I believe you can see that masculine go more into that toxic. So there's many explanations. Some people don't like the labels. I personally do because it helps me understand myself and the world and how I operate. So I just figured I would explain that. But let's go into some tools and mindset shifts that have helped me over the years and could potentially help you guys when it comes to living more softly. So let's first kind of talk more about the body and the nervous system and rhythms and flows. So I think something that can be very helpful is to have a emotional release practice. This is just what I call it. It's really just dedicating time, and this is not you deciding, right? It's when you feel your emotions, you are letting yourself feel them and you're letting them out through journaling. You can obviously do this through speaking to others, speaking to yourself, letting yourself cry, whatever it is, but living a softer, more feminine lifestyle and also not being so stressed is going to require you to create the space to let your emotions out, especially when it comes to being stressed, right? When you're stressed, if you think about it, there's things going on in your mind, you're stressed about this one thing, whatever, and there's no release. You need to release. And I know a lot of people can be afraid of this, but realistically, what happens when you release your emotions and you feel your feelings and you do all that? You have this weight lifted off of you. You're not so tense. You're not so in your anxious mind because you don't have so much of these thoughts, these beliefs, these emotions where they're really weighing you down. And when I think about emotionally releasing and feeling your feelings, it's really about acknowledging that you have them and that you're not suppressing, you're not denying them the way that maybe someone taught you to or you've taught yourself to because you've been uncomfortable with them, and really just accepting yourself for who you are, which is dynamic. It's messy sometimes. You're not always in the best mood, or you have these feelings and you want to cry, you want to let things out. And I really think about my mom, and she was really, really good with this when it came to raising me, especially in her feminine energy, because she really just allowed me to be. She accepted me for who I was. She accepted my emotions when they came. And I always felt very safe and like she was very soft, like she was a mother, like she really had that nurturing side of her. And that really is from this place of acceptance, and you can do that for yourself. Now, another thing that I think has been really huge for me is getting in touch with nature, moving your body, and getting into rhythms and cycles and looking at your body and even life through a cyclical lens. I think this is very helpful because it takes the pressure off of your mind and your body to constantly be going and going and going, which can burn yourself out. And I do think as women, like this is where I do think like women do struggle with this more because we have hormones that are a lot different than men. Our hormones fluctuate a lot. And so we're going to have a little bit more energy some weeks out of the month and some not so much. Now, not everyone is the exact same. Some people are taking contraception as well, which can kind of change your hormones and kind of make you more stable. So to each their own with that. I have lots of episodes on cycle syncing as well, but I think that moving with nature for sure can help when it comes to regulating your nervous system and to lower your stress, of course, because when you go out for a walk, do you not feel better? Like for the most part, you feel better when you go outside in nature, right? It's calming. It's a breath of fresh air. It's really just easy to calm yourself when you get outside. So that's very important. But also the more you spend time outside and you connect to nature, you understand that nature also is very cyclical. Now I know not every place has like all 4 seasons, but for the most part, you can see things change, especially in Canada, of course. We have winter, we have spring, summer, fall, things like that. And I think not resisting Mother Nature and moving with the season of life, like the actual season, can be very helpful for your body, because your body kind of goes through that rhythm as well. Like you have to understand that your body is really taking on the signals from your external environment. So if it's cold outside, your body is probably going to be craving something warm, right? And so understanding that your diet and your movement and your habits should kind of change with the seasons. Now, also, cycle syncing can be very, very helpful because even if it's in the summertime, right, we can, for the most part, go through phases within a singular month as women where when you're menstruating, you typically have a little bit less energy. Maybe you need to rest a little bit more, you're more tired. And then as you're coming out of your menstrual phase, you're moving more into your spring season. And then when you're ovulating, you typically have a little bit more energy and you're more ready to take on life, which means maybe you're more productive or maybe you're doing harder workouts, etc. And you move into your luteal phase. Sometimes we experience PMS symptoms, our moods are changing, our energy is a little bit lower, which means maybe we need to adapt, right? Maybe we need to take things off of our plate a little bit more. We need to be a little bit more softer with ourselves and not get mad at ourselves that we can't grind it out and not burn ourselves out. Like understanding that your body is really a temple, especially when you're a woman. Even if you are on birth control, I do think it's important to understand that your cycle is much more than probably what you even learned in high school or wherever. It can be very helpful. And I think that a lot of us don't want to slow down because we think that we are going to be, not as productive, or we're going to be losing things if we slow down. But I think like one of the wisest things that I've learned in my journey is understanding that it's better to rest and listen to my body and slow down when it needs to, because if not, then I'll just burn myself out and then I'll not be productive at all. I'm more productive when I have actual rest and I listen to my body than to continuously burn out and burn out and burn out. And I get very creative on my down times, and I get very productive on the times where I do feel a lot of energy that, in my opinion, things kind of balance out, and I create and I am very magnetic from those places that I don't see it as a negative thing. And I think at first you might feel a little bit weird slowing things down or taking a break, but you will start to show yourself that you are very magnetic. You manifest a lot, you feel better in your body, you see a lot of results when you are not burning yourself out and you're not listening to your body when it's time to slow down, or even the season of life. Like when you're constantly resisting things, whether it is the season of life that you're in, like the weather or a relationship not working out or whatever it is, like the amount of stress that you add on top of yourself is just not needed when you can just flow with the rhythm of life. Now, the last thing that's helped me when it comes to more of my body and nervous system regulation, for one, is definitely guided meditations or just like doing things in silence a lot when I do feel very overwhelmed with things. I do think that emotional releasing can definitely help, writing out your feelings about things, even if you're mad, you're sad, you're angry, whatever, but also taking a moment in the morning, night, in between your busy day to do something like guided meditations. I always talk about the mindful movement on YouTube. That's very helpful. It's helpful for sleep as well. If you really struggle with sleep and turning off your brain, these are things that are going to constantly signal to your nervous system to calm down, to rest, to be here. Your feet are on the ground. What's in front of you? What is the now? That's really what being in your feminine energy is, right? It's being here. It's not being in your head. It's not thinking about tomorrow. It's not thinking about the past. It's the present moment. So anything that you can do that will help you bring yourself back to center is very big. And I think another huge thing is community, having relationships, having friendships, things like that. Because again, bringing you to the present moment. When you're having a conversation with somebody, I mean, you can be in your head, yes, but for the most part, when you are connecting to people, you're here now. When you're not connected to people, of course you're going to be in your head. You're going to be planning, you're going to be thinking, you're going to be ruminating. So community can be very helpful, and being around people who are also regulated can help you regulate your nervous system as well. Sometimes it's hard to regulate your nervous system, but when you're around somebody who's not as anxious as you are, you kind of can pick up on that stability in a way. The same thing can happen when you're around somebody who's highly stressed, right? It's kind of like, holy shit, like I feel like I'm stressed and I'm not even really stressed right now. Now, I want to read another quote that I actually found on Pinterest today, and it says this: "The reality is, you've never been given a chance to be soft, to relax, to relinquish. From the very beginning, you were forced into a role that demanded you to be in control. And though you flourish as a leader, you desire something other than sovereignty. You've always been the one who was relied upon, yet rarely had anyone to rely on. And oh, how sweet would it be just to float, to just drift and flow and feel the freedom of getting lost in someone you trust, to sink into the embracing arms of someone unwavering, someone so fiercely loyal that when you look into their eyes, you see an unbreakable bond. You deserve an energy equal to your own, someone whose ambition and drive rises to meet you exactly where you are, where you've always been. For so long, you've carried the weight of unmet promises that turn into burdens. This is not your fault. Look how far you've come. It's easier to walk these roads alone than it is to drag someone along. All you ever ask for in return are the very same things you give away freely. Stop excusing your expectations. You deserve reciprocation." Now, I think this quote is very helpful. One, to remind you that you just never had the chance to relax, right? And maybe you got handed cards where it forced you to have to be more in that masculine. But I think first, it's really important to see how you can create a lot of that safety within yourself without looking and searching for someone else to do that. A lot of the times it is hard to find somebody who is going to bring more of that peace and softness into your life. And I do find the more you create peace and calmness in your own life, and you lower your stress, and you do the best to not try and control all circumstances and outcomes, which we're going to talk about, you will tend to be able to see people who are going to match that same energy as well. So just understand, like, you can find people who will co-regulate with you, and you deserve that, but don't wait for that moment. You can create a lot of that safety as well, right? Like connecting with nature, doing those guided meditations, connecting with your emotions and emotional releasing, and looking at your body like a temple, and understanding that you go through a lot of different cycles, whether you are going to cycle sync or just in general, understanding that your body is not going to feel the same every single day, and stop resisting that and stop berating yourself and getting so mad when you don't feel 100%, and kind of moving and adapting with your body and with your mind and your emotions as well. Okay, so let's move on to the mindset part of being more stress-free and really residing more in your feminine energy. So these are a few things that I just live by, and I think have really helped me move back into that calmness and rest. Now, the first thing is mastering the art of detachment, and or you could use the Mel Robbins let them theory. And what this really is letting people be who they present themselves to be, letting go of things that are clearly not working out, not trying to force things, not trying to manipulate people, places, and things to like you, to love you, to show up for you, no longer arguing with people so much about how they're not treating you the right way and this, that. It is not to mean that you can't have a voice, and it's not even to mean that your feelings aren't valid, or, you know, there are injustices, or there are things that are like, what the heck, you shouldn't be doing this, you should do this. But a lot of the times we really step out of that feminine energy and we stress ourselves out by trying to control situations. And the truth is, like, you can't control everyone. You can't control outcomes, and honestly, the things that are for you will not pass you. And this is what I have come to learn in my life. I don't want things in my life that I have man-made myself. And what I mean by that is like forced. I'm not saying that you don't have to work towards your goals. Of course you do. I've worked so hard towards all my goals, but I've always had this essence of the feminine energy of having to let go and having to trust and have faith in the unknown. That's really what that feminine is trusting that things are going to happen the way that they're supposed to, that you are magnetic, that the right people, places, and things are going to come to you. You don't have to force people to love you. You don't have to train people how to treat you right. There are so many people that are out there already that know how to treat you. There's so many opportunities that are waiting for you to open up for, but you're so caught up on trying to change the thing over here that is not working for whatever reason. Let it go a little bit, let it breathe, give it space. Now, another thing I've had to learn, especially in relationships, but even when it comes to business, is just because I can do everything on my own doesn't mean that I have to, nor should I. And the thing is, yes, in one point in my life, I've had to take on a huge responsibility and role. We all do in life. As you grow up, you have to be responsible for your own life. Yes. But, some of us had to, take on a little bit more, and it stressed us out, and it's, put us more into that masculine energy. But understanding that I've always deserved to have help, right? I've always deserved to have consistency in my life. I just maybe didn't get that, but it doesn't mean that I shouldn't ask for that or look for that or accept that in my relationships or even in business or whatever. Like, things don't have to be hard. I don't have to do everything on my own. I don't have to not delegate things. Just because I can do these things doesn't mean that I have to, and I shouldn't feel bad about that. And realistically, there's a lot of things that I cannot do on my own, even though I've gaslit myself into thinking that I can. And, it's again, not to say that you can't achieve a lot of things by yourself, but the downside to that could be that you burn yourself out, or maybe you just don't have opinions or help from people who could help you expedite the process or help you grow in ways that you just can't see or do alone. So I always think it's such a benefit to have community, to have friends, to have relationships, to lean on people, even if it feels hard, even if you think that you can do it all yourself, or even if you want to do it all yourself. Like, it's honestly also just kind of putting your ego aside a little bit too, and being like, you know what, like, maybe I don't have all the answers. Like, maybe somebody else does know how to do it a different way, but it's okay, because usually if you look at it like that, it's easier, because it's like, cool, I don't have to learn all of these things. I think about my best friend all the time. I think about my best friend when it comes to this in particular, when it comes to finances. Like, there's a lot of things that I didn't know about investing and saving. Like, I didn't come from a lot of money. I didn't come from knowing any of this kind of stuff, but I could have spent so many years, researching and learning and understanding. And I did, for the most part. Like, there's still many things that I taught myself when it comes to personal finances and even investing. But I knew that putting my ego aside and, letting somebody else take that reign and being like, hey, I know more than you, is actually to my benefit, and it has been to my benefit, and it's saved me so many years listening to her advice and listening to what's worked for her, and looking at her as more of that expert than me. It's okay that somebody knows more than me. That is totally fine, and it's actually helping me. So I even think about that when it comes to like investing in therapy or investing in a life coach or investing in a program or a book or anything. Resources, all of those things are very helpful, because these people, places, and things might be saving you years of experience. And I even think about that when it comes to the sessions that I have with people. Like, there's just so much life advice that I have accumulated, and wisdom and things that I've gone through that not many people will go through, but the lessons that I have learned can still help and apply to their own lives and can help them in some sort of way and take years of struggle off their lives. And I've heard so many people, and so many of you guys in the comments being like, you've expedited my growth. You've helped me in this area. And so I love being that for other people. And I do the same thing. Like, I invest in therapy. I invest in books and podcasts and, really up-leveling my life and learning from people who know more things than me, even when it comes to relationships. Now, another Pinterest quote that I have been loving says, "Let it end. Allow it to escape from your grasp. If it's meant to be yours, it will find its way back to you. Choose peace. Give yourself permission to breathe a little easier in its absence. Resist the urge to try and control the outcome. All will be okay." And I really think that that is what it means to reside in feminine energy and to live more of a stress-free life and a softer life. I think that, we have this idea of like feminine energy means like that you have to sound a certain way, or you have to dress a certain way, or you have to be a woman or whatever, all these things. And some of those things like can be true if we want, but it's really about releasing control, right? And trusting and knowing that things will work out the way that they need to. And honestly, do you want to live a life where you're constantly making everything and controlling every outcome and making it so people will only do the things and support you in the ways that you need because you made them or you worked so hard to the bone that this is how you got your success. And by the way, again, I am so here for working hard. There's going to be seasons of your life where you work really hard, but it's still understanding that there's going to come a season, and there should be a season where you rest, right? And that season might be one day a week. That might be a vacation every so often. That might be, in the summer, you're really thriving and you're working hard and you're hustling. In the winter, you're kind of a little bit more chill. Who knows? There's so many different types of seasons you can have. Again, even cycle syncing, but understanding that there needs to be this release. And that brings me into another thing, which is letting go of the past. I feel like a lot of us, our stress and worry is coming from the things that have created the stress and worry from the past. Now we're bringing it into the future or to the present. And so bringing it back to emotional releasing and, getting to the root of why you're acting the way that you are can be helpful for this. Okay, apologies. My camera died, so I kind of forget what I was talking about. But when it comes to letting go of the past, like you holding on to things that you might not even know that you're holding on to, that is keeping your nervous system in fight or flight. It's keeping you on, it's keeping you alert, it's keeping you stressed about things that you don't need to be stressed about. Like, when somebody in your past has, made a comment to you, let's say, it kind of can fuck with you, right? And you can take that on as an insecurity for the rest of your life. And you could literally now think that every guy thinks that you look like this, or like something is wrong with you, or women are always like this, or friends are always backstab, or whatever it is, right? So if you don't address that stuff, let it out, work through it, understand where this insecurity or this emotion or this feeling is coming from, and learn to release that, then it's going to be really hard for you to live a softer life. And my main thing here is you have to let go of things that have happened in the past. You don't have to keep it with you. You don't have to keep these insecurities. You don't have to keep this trauma. You don't have to. You have to work through it. You have to allow yourself to feel your feelings and to feel frustrated and angry and all of those things. But there's a way to do it where it's more of you having a practice, emotional release, going to therapy, things like that, but not letting that be your entirety of your personality or your entire life. Like, don't let your past ruin your future. If you want to be a new version of you, you gotta let that go. And you do that by also just accepting that some people are shitty, some circumstances are shitty, sometimes you made a shitty decision. We are human. People are human and life is not perfect, but if you want a different outcome in your life, you're going to have to let go of the things that did not serve you. Another thing that's huge when it comes to living more of a softer life is working on your perfectionism. And recently I talked about this in one of my vlogs on my second channel about how a lot of the times we just need to be okay with doing things messy, starting messy, taking messy action when we don't feel up to the gym, we don't feel like we want to eat healthy, when we don't feel like we have a lot of energy to do all the things on our to-do list. Try to do a little bit, try to do something, try to do it messy. Be okay with the fact that, you really wanted to hit the ground running on Monday, but you still feel like shit. Instead of allowing your feelings to completely take over, like, oh my God, I can't do it, I'm not strong enough, I don't want to do it, this, that. Take one step at a time, but also be okay with the fact that, today's probably still not going to be perfect, but you know what? Doing something is better than doing nothing. Keep flowing with life. Understand that things happen, things come up. You're not always going to feel the best. Also, when it comes to like productivity and working and things like that, focus on one thing at a time. That's another thing with living more of a softer, stress-free life. You can't be working on 100 things all the time. You can't do it, okay? So you adding so much to your to-do list is just adding unnecessary stress. So you got to be okay with starting small, having small wins, and doing one thing at a time. And when you see that consistency, when you start building on that, when you start hitting that goal, even if it's just one thing a day, I just need to get up at this time and that's that. I'm not going to worry about all the water, the supplements, going to the gym, and all of these habits and this, that. If I just do one thing, if I make my bed tomorrow, that will be good enough. But you have to be the one to acknowledge that a small thing will be good enough. And that's where we go into that toxic masculine energy where it's like constantly hitting and achieving and go, go, go and action and, doing all these things without slowing down to acknowledge. It's not that we never do anything or we never be productive or we never move forward to take action. Of course we have to do that, but we need to acknowledge the things that we have done. we need to acknowledge it also, so we signal to our nervous system that it's okay to relax for a second. Let's not constantly stay in that fight or flight. Which brings me to the next thing, which I have really been working on this the past like month and a half. And honestly, guys, I feel so great, and it's taken time and I am still working on it, but that is really taking space and taking time off of things. Now, in this circumstance, it's definitely work for me. I work for myself, so I constantly have things on the go. I can constantly be editing, constantly be filming, but I've really been trying to not do everything all at once all the time, having a half day on Fridays, or doing a day where I'm recording a podcast, but not then instantly telling myself I have to edit it that same day just because I have the time to do it. Prioritizing self-care, prioritizing rest, prioritizing sleep, and really just taking self-care and rest just as seriously. I think you guys know I've been saying this, like, it's so important that you take your off days and your emotional days and your imperfect days and your stress-free days and your happy days just as serious as those days where you want to hit the ground running and you want to hit those goals, or those days that you do worry and you do stress. It doesn't mean you're never going to worry or stress or that you can't, it is what it is, but let's have a little bit more balance. Let's understand it's okay and you're allowed and you should rest. You have to rest. Now, I think the last thing that is very important, and honestly, I have so many tips in every category of life, so I could even go on and on. I won't, because this podcast is getting long, but let me know in the comments anything in particular. But removing toxic people, places, and things, okay? And this could take literally years, but it is important because the relationships that you have, friendship, romantic, whatever, the social media that you're consuming, the environments that you're around, no matter how much inner work that you're doing, these things will continue to signal to your nervous system to stay in fight or flight, into worry, into stress, into have anxiety. Okay. And I'm not saying you're doomed if you can't get out of certain things. I lived in highly stressful situations and I got myself out and I was able to regulate myself. And I did that through things like guided meditations and journaling and releasing my emotions and doing the best that I can with what I had. Okay. But you have to be real with yourself. Are you in, and I'm just using this as an example, are you in a situationship right now? Are you in a relationship where you're not happy? Are you around friends that really irritate you or are not aligned with the habits and the lifestyle that you want? And if you are, it's really time for you to consider exiting these relationships and ending them, or having boundaries, or communicating, or dealing with it. Because you might not think that your relationships are the reason why you're internally stressed, but a lot of the times our biggest stressors, the biggest reasons why we struggle with being in that feminine, in that soft era, in that stress-free era, is because of the things that are surrounding us, our environments, okay? And even if they're not extremely toxic, it is very important that you take a look at these things. And I say situationships too, because I think that, like, in my life, in my dating life, I should say, like when I was ever in a situationship, I kind of just like, it was kind of like a back burner thing, but realistically, it did keep me kind of in a heightened stressed situation, because I was either worrying or I was anxious in a way, or I wasn't having clarity, or I was feeling uneasy. There was no groundedness, there was no stability, there was no consistency. And when you don't have that, you kind of want to create that yourself. So you start worrying about things, you start predicting things, you start getting in your head about things, you start trying to fix things and worry about things that you don't need to be worrying about. So take the masculine energy that you have within you and sort out some of these things that are not helpful for you. Now, I have 2 journal prompts that you can journal on and explore for yourself when it comes to this topic that could be helpful. And the first one is, where am I forcing or controlling right now in my life? And what's one mindset shift that I can make to release even a little bit of this pressure? So for instance, a mindset shift that you can have, and this is what I say all the time, if there's something that like is just distressing me and I don't like, it's like not what I want it to be, I always tell myself, I trust that this will unfold exactly the way that I need it to unfold. It is going to work out the way that it needs to work out for me. If something is not for me, there's something better coming. And you have to have a practice of these things. You're the one that's in your head, right? You're either telling yourself that there is something to be stressed about or there isn't something to be stressed about. So in any circumstance that you have that's distressing you, you can be like, I have to keep worrying about this. It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. Or you can see it for what it is. You don't have to be delusional. Maybe something's not working out and you say, you know what, this is not working out right now, but you know what, something is going to change. There's going to be a person, a place, a thing. I'm going to find an answer somewhere. I will be safe even if things aren't working out exactly the way they need to, because I am always safe. I always find a way, and I don't need to know the answer. I don't need to know how this thing is going to work out. Now, I personally do think having connection with God or the universe, or, having some sort of spiritual practice can definitely be helpful in the times where things are uncertain. And actually, Mel Robbins was talking about anxiety in one of her podcasts, or maybe it was on Jake Shane's podcast, I forget, but she was basically saying like, anxiety really is coming from this place of you not trusting that you can handle the unknown. And so getting good at reminding yourself that you can handle the unknown, you can handle things that are uncertain, can be very helpful. Because the truth is, you might not know the answer. You might not know the outcome, but that doesn't mean that you're unsafe just because you don't know the outcome or you can't figure it out right now. What can you do? What can you do to weather this storm? How can you ride this wave? What lesson is this teaching you? A lot of the times in our lives when things aren't working out, there's a lesson, there's a test. So try and look at it from that lens. That's what I do a lot. And a lot of the times for me, it's usually testing my patience. It's testing my faith. It's testing my belief. It's really calling me to go deeper in some of my limiting beliefs that I might be holding around money or relationships or, my self-worth. So try and look at things from that lens. That's what I always do. Like, in my opinion, God has me. God has a plan for me. I am not here to just suffer all of my life. So how can I turn my pain into power? Now, the second prompt is, what does softness feel like in my body, and how can I create more of that within my week? Now, I'll give you some examples. That could just be sitting in silence in the morning for 10 minutes. That could be you making your coffee without playing a podcast episode one day. That could be you going on a nature walk and you connecting to your heart, your breath, the sounds, the space around you. That could be feeling into what it feels like to take all of these to-do things that you never get done anyways off of your Sunday reset for 1 week and explore a week of just doing one thing every single day and only focusing on that one thing and seeing how you feel. For me, it always feels like a weight is lifted off of me when I always tell myself, you know what, just one thing tomorrow. What's that one thing I'm going to choose to do? All the other things are relevant. I'll try and do them as they come. But if I just get this one thing done and I sit here and I acknowledge that and I'm proud of myself for that, oh my gosh, it feels so soft. I feel soft. Another thing could be not overcommitting to plans or things that you don't want to do. But overall, just start being aware of how you're feeling. I think that is like one of the best things that you can start with this journey is to start to wake up in the morning and connect with, how do you feel? Do you feel anxiety? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel like you need to control something? Watch your behaviors. Do you feel sad? Do you feel happy? What are those things? And start to acknowledge them and witness yourself. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to do anything about it. It's simply the act of noticing. And then you could do maybe a journal practice or, listening to what your body wants, which is maybe it wants to move in a different way than it usually does. Or maybe you want to go on a longer walk than you usually do. Or instead of doing your weightlifting today, you really feel like you want to do a yoga class or you want to do something at home. Like allowing and acknowledging and accepting yourself as a human being, but also accepting people for who they are, accepting things as they come, and riding that wave instead of trying to control, trying to force, trying to over-explain, trying to get people to see your worth, trying to control different outcomes. And this is the thing, it is a journey. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and never want to control something. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and just, all of a sudden you're just the soft life and this, that. It's a practice. It's a constant coming back to yourself. It's a constant acknowledging and understanding that you are this dynamic being Whether you're a woman or a man, whoever, you have emotions, you have feelings, you have different ways of being in your body, you have different interests, you have different insights. The way you think might be different than another person. There's so many things about you, and it's really about going on this journey of coming back to yourself and being like, how do I feel? What do I want? How do I want to live my life? What do I like? What don't I like? What feels good to me? This is a lifelong journey, okay? And that's really all I'm probably going to say because I feel like I've been yapping for so long. But if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know if you want me to expand on anything. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I would show you Theo right now, but he is down bad sleeping on my... Actually, let's see if we can show you. I'm only saying this because he's so big now. He's literally... Look at these legs. They are longer than my legs at this point. He's a teenage boy. I have now officially had him for 2 months and he's grown so much. He's an Italian Greyhound, cute ass puppy. If you are listening on audio and you haven't come to the YouTube channel and looked, I don't know why you haven't, to be honest. Or maybe you just didn't know. We have a YouTube channel where you can see me on the podcast if you're more of a visual learner. That's how I like to listen to my podcast majority of the time, is just to see somebody speak and obviously listen to them. But I do like the audio when I'm on a hot girl walk. So anyways, with that said, I'm going to finish ranting. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.